Hey everybody, Sam Davidson here with MEAWW Worldwide, and I am here with one of my favorite TV actors, Sherri Saum, who is Ellie on Netflix's Locke Key. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm really thrilled for you to be here. So there has been so many iterations at this point of this show. What do you think it is about this specific iteration that makes it special, unique, and also why it's been so successful?
I think that it's the collaboration between Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, the creators of the source material from the graphic novel, with Meredith Averill and Carlson Cuse, who have a huge, amazing track record with television and grabbing audiences in really fantastical ways. I mean, she did Haunting of Hill House, he's behind Lost, and many series. Just adventure and fantasy and all those things are right in their wheelhouse and in their DNA. So that collaboration was just magical. And Gabriel and Joe both were part of the show going every step of the way. They were even cameos in the first season of Locke & Key, small cameos, but it was just really a thrill, and they were so generous with their ideas and their creativity and their collaboration. So it just all came together to create this perfect finally version of the show.
Yeah, it was like all the right puzzle pieces, you know, I guess kind of pun intended, the keys were all put together in the right way. I know as an actor, you know, when you have prior source material, sometimes people choose to really dig into it and sometimes people don't. Did you choose to read the graphic novels and, you know, watch everything you possibly could?
Well, the interesting thing is the show has been through many iterations, and I auditioned for it 10 years ago when it was in a different studio, when it was with different people, like it was literally like a whole other thing. But it was still the same character that I auditioned for 10 years later.
So was this the one that, I think it would have had Jesse McCartney in it back in the day?
I think it was...
It was on Fox, I want to say.
It was with Amblin Entertainment. It was a Spielberg thing.
Okay.
I mean, it was like a thing. It was so long ago. I don't remember, but it was... I did at that time go digging in the archives of the LA Library for the source material, and I wanted to know everything I could about the character. So I had a good base when this thing suddenly came back around all those years later. I even dug up my old audition sheet, and I was like, this is the same character, even the same audition material. I'm like, this was meant to be.
That's really cool. Wow. And what would you say are the key differences of your character in this version than, you know, specifically what it's in the graphic novels?
You know, the thing I can notice most is that they really kind of develop my relationship with Nina Locke, Darby Stanchfield's character, more than I noticed it being in the graphic novel. But you know, I think the core of Ellie stayed the same. You know, I mean, she's so burdened. She's got all these secrets, and you know, she inadvertently started a lot of craziness, unleashed it into the world from a good place, but it still caused all this havoc. So she's this very burdened character, and she appears that way in the novels as well. So I think it was pretty true to the original.
And your portrayal of it is so fun because I'm so used to trusting you. And I'm like, oh, is this a completely different, you know, kind of thing? But it is and it's not, because at the end of the day, you know, we do find out so much of your motives, which is so nice because otherwise you would essentially be a villain of sorts, right?
Exactly.
So spoiler alert at this point, guys, because I'm assuming if you're watching this interview, you've probably already binged the show, you've had some time. If not, go finish it, come back. So at what point did you know that your character was not going to die in the series? Was it kind of brought up to you up front, just so you know we're going to continue you hopefully, or did you kind of read every week thinking you might go like you did in the graphic novels?
Well, I mean, I knew they took a lot of license with they took a lot of license with what they did on the show. I knew that, you know, especially with a show like this, anything can happen. You can be dead, but then maybe not. So I still to this day don't know quite what their plans are going to be. I just know that I am not deceased, that I am in this netherworld, and anything can happen.
So obviously we know what your character is at this point, kind of. What would you say is worse, like the brutal death that your character endures in the graphic novels or being thrown through the Omega Door, which is probably pure torture?
Well, you know, through the Omega Door is a frightening place to be, but at least you're still in a limbo, purgatorial kind of, you know, miasma of sorts. You don't know. So maybe that is preferable because there's always hope.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's preferable for you as an actor, I'm sure. Anything is possible in these shows, but Will that mean, so because where we left off is essentially that, will you be two different people, like you as the actor? So if and when, I mean, the show's doing very well, so season 2 does not seem like that crazy of a suspicion that's going to happen, but do you think you'd be playing the villain as yourself? How would that work?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what they might be thinking for that, but I love the idea. I love the possibilities. I love that about the show, that just so many possibilities can be happening. And I love the idea of playing something, but in a different body, but different. I love all the possibilities of it.
And I feel like Nina Locke would be like, I knew she was evil.
Yes.
And so I love that in the original comic books, we burned through a lot of it in this first season. And so they have taken a lot of creative liberties. I'm assuming that they will continue to do so if this story continues, right?
Yes, I think so. And I know that, Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez they're not precious about their stuff. Like they're collaborative with the creators. They're on set. They even had cameos in the first season.
Right.
So they're very collaborative, and like they're working with them every step of the way. So I'm sure having that to mine from continually, with permission and with their blessing, just no end to what could happen.
And so if you had access to any key to use for fun, which one would you choose?
I would probably use the anywhere key because, in a very small way, I'd like to be able to get from like downtown LA to Santa Monica in nanoseconds. That would be great, skipping the 405. But honestly, travel is one of my biggest passions in life. Like if I'm not working, I want to be traveling. That's always been my thing. So just to be able to, transport yourself instantly wherever you think you might want to be would be a dream.
And so also I realize that in the graphic novels, your character goes through quite a bit of really intense trauma that, your character here still does, but it's maybe not spoken of. There was kind of a reference possibly to a rape that happened, I believe, in the graphic novels. Mm-hmm. Did you kind of take any of that with you as far as building your character, or did you just believe this was kind of a new character of sorts?
No, I definitely have always felt, and like I said, I auditioned for this 10 years ago, and I read the source material, and I always felt the heavy, the burden that Ellie had, and it's layered with, like you said, so many things that aren't necessarily brought up in this show so far, but I definitely feel like I carried that in my body, for however it translated, but yeah, she's got issues.
And so you guys had this beautiful, amazing set. I know you shot a little bit in Nova Scotia, which is so cool. What were your favorite moments from the set, this house, whether it was kind of like a creepy, scary moment or just bonding with the cast, getting lost in the house?
Yeah, I mean, I would do a lot of planking. I just was like, long days on the set, you're in heels or you're doing whatever and you're like, body's cramped up. So I would just do a lot of planking on this gorgeous, mansion stairway thing.
I saw that. It literally looks like you're floating on the stairs.
It's magical. So I do a lot of that. I just loved roaming the sets because they were so intricate and so well designed. But mainly that stuff was beautiful and so fun to be part of. But mainly my biggest memories are sharing time with the cast and Darby Stanchfield and Liza de la Vieira. We had dinners together and we had coffees together and we really bonded, and that's unusual for me in a lot of ways. You just never know how you're gonna. Foster's, for me, Foster's fans, anyone who's watching, was a huge, one of those rare experiences too, but I just didn't expect that I thought that would be like a one-off. Like this was another continuation of being with people who are just lovely and genuine and who I really want to spend time with. So it was just win, 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 bing, 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 all over.
Well, speaking of the Fosters, it is one of my favorite shows. It is such an amazing piece of art, I honestly think. And what I love is that spin-offs of series can often be very difficult, but Good Trouble has been fantastic for Freeform, and I especially love that they include you guys within some of the episodes. Is that something that you think that will continue to happen even as the girls get older?
We'll see, because logically, you always kind of need your mom, no matter how old you are, and I think on this show it's particularly true. And it's kind of at this point, if stars align, what am I doing? What is Terry up to? What can we work out? It's all just kind of like if stars align, if the writers are, thinking of throwing another story with us in it. It's all just kind of, we'll see. But it's always so much fun, and they're just such a lovely, lovely group of people who I just we'll always think of as family.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're so proud of those girls.
Amazing.
For carrying their own show now, and you've known them since they were so young. I know, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. It has been an absolute pleasure, and thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure to binge season 1 of Locke and Key in its entirety right now on Netflix, and we'll see you next time. Bye.